anymore over here. What's good, people? How we feeling? How you doing? I hope you're healthy. I hope you're safe and sound. New York, your asses should be outside on your cellular devices watching this right now because it's gorgeous outside. It is EC Radio. It is time to get audio fornication in your ear holes. That I don't know. That doesn't really mean anything. I'm just talking out of my ass. I'm fired up on Utica Coffee today. That's what's going on in my house. We're live in my bedroom, and it is Disruption Network. You can follow along on all Disruption Network social media platforms. It's me, Z, and joining me today, my man from Annie in the Water, Mr. Michael Lashomb. Mr. Lashomb, welcome to the show. It's good to see you, buddy.
It's always a blast to be on the show, dude. Always a blast.
So the last time we caught up was the Disruption Network 3-year anniversary party.
Yep.
With Annie in the Water and Haley in the Water with Haley and Jane. So we haven't really talked since then. That night was epic, man. So personally and publicly, I want to thank you for a most memorable, incredible night at the Jewish Community Center that night. So thank you so much. Great night.
Dude, that was super fun, dude. It was really a beautiful night. I thought that the vibe was great and everybody was very, very stoked. We had a fan actually post about that today saying that one of his best memories was the Utica show. Yeah, because the cake had gone out. You guys had put the cake out, or he had gotten cake. I don't know how he got cake because like certain people were able to, the cake went pretty fast, but he had gotten cake and he was feeding it to me while I was playing on stage. And then he went over and fed it to Matt Richards on the keys while he was playing. So it was just a great night, man. Great night.
The little things.
It's the little things, dude. I almost want to ask him, I was like, was it the best show on the tour? Just because this kid made his name's Bruce. Bruce is my homie. A shout out to Bruce if you're watching, but he travels pretty much all over the country to watch our shows. And he made probably 50% of the shows. And I was like, did you like that one the most because you fed us cake? But I don't know, maybe it was because it did sound good in there. The sound guy dialed it in great. The crowd was huge. That was such a great response. Utica comes out strong, man. I friggin' love Utica, dude.
They've always showed you a lot of love in this town. That's for damn sure, man.
Yeah. It's a great town, man. Great music town though. In upstate New York. I mean, it's a different following. People really like our music, genuinely like our music. They don't just come out because it's the thing to do. There's some towns in the upstate, which I love, or all over the country, that come out because it's the thing to do. It's a hype and people like it. But Utica, they come out because they listen to songs, they sing the songs, and it's a great support system, dude. It's great.
Absolutely, man. It's always upstate New York in general has always been strong as far as a music community goes, from Albany to Buffalo. And you guys are right in the middle of all that, man. A lot of love for the I-90 shuffle, as we like to call it. So, and that's how you get your licks in there, brother. That's how you cut your teeth,
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely been shows that we've had to work for, but then there's just these other shows that are just terrific, and it's going to be interesting to see how that develops more, because we did have such a good tour, and then to kind of finish off on, and then the kind of social distancing thing started, but we do want to go back to those places that treated us so good in the past, but then we acquired so many new venues that we played at all over the country. So it's interesting. It's interesting what's going to go down in the music scene, but I'm excited for it. I think it's going to be great.
Well, it's definitely a change of consciousness for sure. Let's recap the tour a little bit, because after I think the Utica show was maybe your second or third show, and then you guys went out and did a nice little run, and it looks like the response was ridiculous for you guys. So hats off to you guys. But recap the tour for us.
Yeah, so that first week was overall the tour was fantastic. We all learned a lot. Haley was fantastic. That was a really strong tour for her, being the first time on the road with the band since the breakup of her last band. And for our band as well, that was it was a lot of new stuff that we were doing with production. We changed our production. We changed the songs we were doing, and we learned the whole Rumors album by Fleetwood Mac. So it was a lot of preparation that went into it. And it was 10 shows in 16 days. So it was a pretty intense schedule. So that first week it was great. It was such good responses. The water hole was first night. The second night we went up to we had like in between day, but we ended up, some of the members of our band did like a super jam at this other venue, which was super fun, but might've been trying to do a little too much. But yeah, that first week was great. Finishing off at Utica that first weekend was awesome. Then the second leg of the tour, the second week of tour, we went to where did we go? We went over to Buffalo Ironworks, and then we went to where did we go? We started off in Buffalo, and then I think we went over to,
shout out Josh Holtzman.
Yeah, Josh is great. Yeah,
he's a good man.
He is a good man. Yeah, we're excited to get back there. But yeah, the second week was great. We went over, I think, Massachusetts way a little bit, and then we did New Hampshire on the third week, and we did Vermont on the third week. And it was after the first week had happened, the hype had kind of built, and then the second week, by the end of the second weekend, it was just pretty insane. Everything just went. Everything.
Yeah, it looked like you guys built up a lot of good momentum.
Yeah. It's funny. I honestly haven't even done ever since the tour hit. I'm not gonna lie. I haven't even thought about the tour like this, like I'm doing right now. So I'm sorry if I'm a little scatterbrained, because it was so intense, and then this all hit with the social distancing. So we shifted gears so quickly. So we never even did as a band a recap of the tour. We did this awesome tour, and then suddenly we're like, okay, what do we do now? But yeah, it was just so surreal. We had prepared for months before that to get the album down and be good with that. And then it just became this hype that was kind of bigger than, what Annie in the Water just was, or just Haley Jane, or even the Rumor stuff. There was just such a combined amount of energy between what she brought to the table, what we brought as Annie in the Water, and then the working together. And it was the thing about that tour that I love the most is that people were so unbelievably excited. People were just through the roof thrilled, and they got all different kinds of music. They got a lot of original music, but then they also got to hear this album that they all love. So seeing just the spread of demographics, anywhere from 18 to honestly 80 years old, was absolutely ridiculous. And it was a really beautiful tour. It was special. It was definitely a lot. We put a lot into it, and it was a lot of shows, but every one of them was just through the roof. It was a beautiful tour. It really was a beautiful tour.
Have you guys discussed maybe recording some music with Haley down the road?
Yeah. We have Haley's a very interesting individual because she's capable of so many things.
Right.
She can be a rocker. She can be a folk artist. She likes bluegrass. She can be theatrical. So she kind of wears a lot of different, she has, a lot of different masks that she's able to wear. And as a full band, we've definitely thought about it. We were thinking about it during the tour, but I think we were just so busy, and we had worked so hard for the tour. Then we did the tour, and then we were getting ready. Actually, the first show that we had to cancel was a show with her in Vermont, right before everything really got shut down. So we had been working with her, and then suddenly it just kind of, everything just kind of went on hold, and this whole hiatus it's interesting because it's made everyone differentiate their careers so much. So we've kept in touch with her though. But she's been doing a lot of painting. She's been doing a lot of her own little live stuff. So I think we're obviously seeing a lot of solo artists coming out, or individuals from a larger band representing the band as well. So people are just trying to use their resources best as possible. And us working with Haley is definitely going to be something we're going to do throughout our career. In what capacity that might be, maybe it's a Rumors tour, maybe it's just a couple of us playing with her, maybe it's a full band. It's really kind of up in the air. And I think she's also going to be looking at different ways on how she wants to evolve her career, but she's doing well. She's differentiating herself and doing great during this time right now. So
time will tell, right, brother?
Time will tell. Time will tell, man.
What about you, Mr. Lashomb? What have you been doing to occupy your time during this universal lockdown?
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. I personally have, I actually been I've enjoyed it. Like I've really enjoyed it. I think sometimes I get a little empathic for other people. This is impacting millions and millions of people. And I think globally there's definitely a heaviness to it, but on the bright side of it, this is the first time in 13 years I've actually stayed in one place for over 2.5 weeks, like 2 to 3 weeks. Yeah. I've never had a consistent grounding for over 3 weeks at a time off the road. So it's a very new feeling. Yeah. For 13 years, half of my life I've literally spent on the road traveling, more than 3+ hours away from my home. So there's a part of being on the road to me that is part of my home. So being in one place though, is sleeping in the same bed is a good rhythmic thing. I've been able to exercise, I've been able to get in a good rhythm with my, health and well-being, mental health, and eating right. And, so on a personal level, it's been fantastic. It's been a great, healthy experience. And then musically, it's been fantastic too. The first, there's been kind of shifts that have happened within my career musically that's happened throughout it too. So I've just been able to differentiate myself. The beginning I came out with an original song, and then I started working on writing stuff for Annie in the Water. And then we recently made a bunch of some pretty cool business moves, and we're working on developing our merchandise as a band. We're reaching out and working with different artists. So we're going to have a lot of new artwork coming around. We have a video release from our Higher Ground show that we're going to be releasing. So stay tuned for that. So it's been great that we've been able to do some spring cleaning, but also get the business stuff down. So it's, I've been able to really keep myself occupied and continue to work. I've had some days of just downtime and been able to skateboard, hang out with my dog, which is great. But other than that, it's business as usual, pretty much. It's just that working just as hard, but just not as much financial kickback. But, it'll all come around at the end of it. So it's just I just think a challenge. It's been a challenge to differentiate myself and as a band, and it's like growing pains. But once you get through that, I feel like the music scene is going to be fucking awesome after this, and it's beautiful to see what's going on right now. People are being real, they're being authentic, they're just putting it out there, with no kind of sparkle and production magic and everything. It's just, you're seeing raw, real people being themselves. And I love that. I love authentic expression. It's beautiful and hilarious and great.
That's because everybody's sitting in the comfort of their own home. They're more comfortable at home in their own natural habitat, and that's why it's so natural, raw, and real. And and it's great to see it is. And there's a lot of great artists out there doing some great stuff and killing it. And it's cool that the generosity has been out there for a lot of these artists too. And keep that flowing, people, because these guys all lost their gigs. Everybody lost their gigs. So keep that flowing and keep helping out these artists. How is my girl Tess? Where is she?
Dude, she's great. She's outside in the sun right now, dude.
She's smarter than us right now. We should be doing this outside.
I was going to bring her up for the interview, literally just so I could pick up my phone and show her. And she just looked. I was like, Tess, come here. And she just looked up in the sun, just why would I go inside? So I was like, no, just forget about it. Just stay inside or stay outside. So
I love that. I love bands that bring their dogs on the road with them. You get so many of them. I've been dealing with the touring bands for years and years, and you always find those cool dogs with touring musicians.
Oh, dude, it's a blessing to have them on the road. I think for some people, myself included, having a dog, there really is a therapy to having the dog on the road. It's just kind of they give an energy of I think grounding and balance to some people, even though my dog Tess is actually a fairly emotional dog. She's kind of like my counterpart. We've been so connected for so long, going on a decade now, that she knows things about me and I know how she functions. And when you're on the road and you have to feed your dog, you have to give her water, you want to make sure that they're okay. Sometimes that can be stressful, especially when it's a larger production and, you have multiple production crews or different bands involved. And so that can be a little stressful for myself, but it makes me stay focused. You know, I focus on the music, and then I focus on taking care of my dog. And that way she also, like, when she finds a comfortable area, that's great. And also, like, when a venue takes care of your dog and is considerate, it goes to show you how, like, very genuine those people are. Like, and I don't know how to explain it, but, like, if my dog gets treated well and, like, she's comfortable, like, I'm going to be way more comfortable performing, and I'm always going to want to work with you. So I actually, when I'm off the road with Annie in the Water, I book solo shows, and all the venues that I play at, like, they have like a water bowl ready to go. And they expect her to be there, you know? So
Yeah.
Well, I'm not so alone on the road when I'm touring solo as well. So having a dog on the road, dude, it's a beautiful thing, man. We have a blast together for sure.
You got to get her a rider, bro.
I know.
Come up with a little rider for her. She gets like pepperoni treats and maybe a little gift basket and stuff, some gourmet dog chow or some shit, you know?
Yeah, you know, that's not a bad idea. I still think I'm at an echelon that being humble is probably the best approach, you know. But I've been also I like to. I think when you get older, you start to realize how riders are really important, you know. Mm-hmm. And like my dog is getting older, like, so in a way, like, there are particular requests that I do have is that if she's not allowed in the venue, if there's any way that she has a safe room that has air conditioning, if it's hot outside, or that I'm able to, like, you know, have like my car in a specific parking so that I can have the AC on with water. And cause she likes my car, she feels most safe there. So there are certain venues and situations where I will have specific requirements that I'll request. And if they don't, then I just, you know, kind of, but it never happens like that. If it's with the full band, sometimes a venue is just like, look, man, I can't worry about your dog. And I don't blame them. I mean, there's too much money and safety issues going on to involve the dog in there. Is definitely my own personal choice. So, but I love having Tess around, man.
Yeah, of course. Who win it? She's a sweetheart. She is definitely a sweetheart. So, Mike, you've been doing. I saw you do a couple live streams. Are you doing a set schedule on live streams, or are you just kind of doing it periodically?
So I've had different people reaching out. To do live streams. So the first one that I had done was through the range in Ithaca, and I at first didn't really want to do live streams because I sometimes I don't know. It's hard to explain. Like, I was just like, well, I can focus on studio stuff instead of live streaming. But they were so responsive that I just started saying that I'll just figure it out as I go along. So what I started doing was just kind of being open to whatever came in. So I had offers come in for live streams, and I was like, well, I'll just take them, you know. They're good, you know, like you were saying earlier, the people have been really generous in donating money, like, when I do it, and which just helps, you know, and it's a stream of income that I can, you know, use. But I haven't tried to overly do them. I've only taken about a couple solo opportunities to do it just so I could get the kinks going. So I worked with Mirth Films, and which has allowed me to work with the production, like, better production, which is great. So it's they've been going well, but I've mostly just been using the opportunities as a way for me to try out the productions, how they work, if they're working better. It's a great way to have a trial run for production, because this is only going to serve the full band when we get back on the road. But what we decided was the solo ones were doing great, and that was fun. And we just, as a band, decided that we don't want to get together as a full unit. So the closest thing that we thought we could do is have Brad and I, and Higher Ground wanted to do a live stream. So we're going to do our first Brad and I live stream from Higher Ground, because that was the last venue that we played at. So one thing we thought about doing was maybe even like following up with all the tour venues that we did and just stream through the venues, you know, because they've all expressed interest. But a lot of it was just, I'd like to be on, like, a schedule would be cool, I think. But a part of me likes it being kind of a boutique thing, you know. It comes out, like, you never know what's going to happen. Like, the schedule stuff is great. I think if you're putting out new content and looking to get like a constant gig going, which is good. But I've always been really enjoying the it's kind of like booking shows on the road. You know, there's an art to booking these random streams now. So I don't know, been trying something new. It's just, I've always done things as uniquely as I possibly can. So I don't really actually have a set answer to that, but it's just ideas coming out of my brain right now, bro.
It's definitely a change of consciousness. Now you can set up in your living room and do a tour. It kind of takes the middleman out of the picture. You know, you don't really have to go travel. So it takes that expense out of it. And you can just set up and put your camera up and, you know, make a couple bucks live from your living room nowadays. So it's definitely shift. And I think it's going to stay like that for a while, unfortunately, because right now the uncertainty, of course, but too, I mean, I know everybody's going to be excited to get out of the house and stuff, but there's still going to be that slight hesitation about going to public facilities, or who knows how many different phases that we're going to go through before we can actually put on a show. So, so right now everybody's just jumping into action and live streaming, which is great. And that's the way it's set up to be. And I think it's the wave of the future too, because it's just going to be a thing that's going to continue.
Yeah. I actually think it's really cool. Like, I've always thought that whenever something comes up, I think one of the coolest things, it's like, I always think of everything kind of like surfing. Like sometimes the waves come through and they're shitty, tough waves. Yeah, exactly. And you pick it, but you're like, oh shit, I'm on this really tough wave, and it bucks you and you get washed and it sucks. But the thing is because you hit that wave, you're able to understand how you can surf that better next time, you know? So I think the cool thing about having the live streams happening right now is that you have some people just don't want to go to shows. Like, we have some fans, like one of my favorite fans is Don Martin, and his wife is unable to physically come to as many shows, and she always wants us to live stream. And, you know, that's just one example of dozens of people who physically have difficulties, either financially or physically, or some people emotionally. They just get overwhelmed with large crowds. So having live stream gives a whole nother access to people that would have never been able to see them. And they're the first person to hit me up on Messenger being like, thank you for streaming. Like, and they love it. And also, I think with the bands, that can help with mental health for the bands as well, because I've always been used to working like pretty grueling touring schedules. And as I've gotten older, I've started to realize that they're not that necessary. Like, you really don't have to work so hard, because you're kind of starting to work against yourself. There's always that pendulum, you know, or that balance beam, you know. And I think it's going to be really cool, because now learning all of this live streaming production, I'm going to be able to bring this along with the rest of my crew and my band together to utilize this when we rehearse. So, like, who's to say we don't have our rehearsal and then premiere a couple of songs and make some money for the band, so that next thing you know, the guys have some extra cash to, you know, it helps pay for maybe some rehearsals that we never would usually think to make money off of, if by chance that works out. These are just some ideas we've had as a band. I don't want to, you know, disclose too much information about our plans and stuff, but it might be something that can balance it out. Like, maybe the tours don't have to be so grueling, so that you can stay in one place and have a good production. So I'm thinking that there's going to be a way that both of this can blend well, because as I agree, I don't know when exactly it's like, I don't think there's going to be a day where it's going to be like, okay, now we can do, you know, 500 plus people at a venue or whatever. Like, I think it's going to be in tiers as well. Like, I can see like maybe smaller venues, or like smaller like pubs and taverns going like 100 people at a time, or smaller venues. And then like we were starting to get a draw of a minimum of 150, 200 people to 500 people for our typical draw. So as of our band ourselves, we're kind of, you know, handcuffed for probably a pretty long while. So it's the live stream is stuff we want to work on. We want to work on some mobile recording. And it's great, man. We've been really able to use this as an evolutionary process and a growing process. And why not? You know, why not tighten up your recording better? Why not figure out how to live stream more professionally and cleanly for your fans? Like, all it's doing is differentiating a way to streamline your content to your fans directly. And I think that's really, really awesome. Every bit of feedback I've gotten from doing live streams has been overwhelmingly positive, and it's a beautiful thing, you know. But I do miss big live shows. There's nothing like people
for sure
contributing their energy collectively. There's just nothing will compare to that. There's nothing. It's beyond drugs. It's just the fucking best, man.
Yeah, I was talking to Montbleu last week or 2 weeks ago about like setting up a camera, and like he got more nervous playing in front of his camera than he did in front of like thousands of people. It's kind of crazy. Do you feel that as well? Do you get that nervous anxiety before you hit record or hit that go live button?
Yeah, I really do, man. Well, the thing, it's kind of interesting when I do like a part of me is just like, well, fuck it, this is just gonna happen. You know, it's kind of like it feels almost like theater, actually. Like when I used to be really into that, and you kind of have to completely succumb to that moment. Like, you know, the spotlight's on. It's like a show. Spotlight's on. Like, you just got to do it. So, but for me, like how I sing, like personally, how I sing my songs when it's just me singing, I'm very critical about my own voice. I've been only just in the past couple of years, like working on a vocal coach and everything. So I'm overly critical about my voice. So once I do a live stream, I'm fully giving it all that I can give. And I get nervous, like right before I hit the button. I'm like, oh God, please don't like mess up. Please don't have I'm more concerned about the production quality than I am about my own performance. But then I'm also worried about my performance too a little bit. But once I'm doing it, I just perform. I just never watch it again. I don't like watching myself perform individually. As a band, I like it because I'm working with other components, and I like to study that and use that as like, you know, football players use tape. But solo performances, right. I get cringy, but it's not so bad. I just need to kind of like
over it,
not be so critical of myself, you know.
Yeah, even if it's a good show, like I do the same thing with podcasts. Like I won't listen to the podcast. I don't like to, but I will if it's like a really good show or if it was like a big guest or something to that effect. But I don't consistently listen to the podcast. What about if it's a good show? If you felt like, oh man, I smoked it tonight, it was a great one, I'm going to re-listen to that or rewatch that.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some shows that I'm like, it's really funny because there's some shows like I'm really excited to watch back over. And then, like, you watch it and you're like, oh, like, maybe that wasn't as good as I thought. And then that's, like, the weird thing that but it's been cool because we've been going over our live shows now. We've had the time to do it. Like, unfortunately, like, we haven't had the time. For me, it was kind of like, you know, like, if it was insight in mind, like, some of the guys would, like, pull up footage and be watching it on the camera or something or be watching it on the computer. And then it's there right in front of your face. So you're like, oh, let me check that out. Sometimes we would actually plug in the live recording as a band, like in the car, and just listen to the show. And that's kind of a really cool thing when you play a good show and then like literally you're driving home and you're listening to the show, like a fire show and you're, bless you, my friend. Yeah. And you're listening to the show and it's just fun because you're sharing in this, like, you kind of get to relive it a little bit and like you're burnt out and you're tired, but you're listening to the show with your friends and bandmates in the car. So that's usually pretty fun. So, but there are some shows like Higher Ground. We had video photographers there, professional photographers there. So you kind of go through the video, you archive it because you have to. Yeah. You have to see how they did their job and what you can use from it. So, and plus like your performances, like we're going to be releasing our Ham on My Way video out. And for me, like we actually like just freestyled the song, like, because we normally do for like, you know, certain shows and the way it came out was like terrific. It was so on point and it was just like, oh, okay, well that's actually like a good way we should do the song, like moving forward. You know, there's a lot of good takes from that, you know? So it's like when I used to play lacrosse in college, like you would watch it back and then you would watch how you like made a step or a juke or a move. And you're like, oh, if I did that again, like knowing that I had like a defenseman that was slow on his left side, like I could use that to score a goal. Like, and it just makes you better, you know, watching footage makes you better, you know?
I could see like a lot of jam bands going back and listening to their old shows and like, oh wait, I like how I played that back in like, you know, a couple of years back or whatever, or, you know, maybe that muscle memory comes back on a certain thing, or there's so much different things. It's like you said, being in sports and looking over the review tape and trying to figure out adjustments and figure out other defenses. And the same principle goes with music as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's funny you say that, because there's like songs that I've recorded like years ago, and I don't remember how to play them on guitar anymore. Like listening to it, I'm like, I don't even know what the finger pattern was to get that tone. So now when I record, I actually supplement like it on video, and I'll show my progression on the fretboard, because I've been writing so much and I can actually know what I'm doing. So it's very helpful.
Are you a voice memo guy? Are you constantly talking in your voice memo on your phone?
Yeah. So if I have like a harmony or a melody or whatever, I will sing it out on my phone. Like when I'm driving, I get a lot of ideas when I'm driving just myself. And so I'll come up with like an idea of the melody, like, and then maybe I'll record that section, and then I'll pause it there. And then like, 20 minutes later, I'll be like, what could be a bridge for that? I'll be like, so then I'll tag that on the next segment. So I'll voice memo song ideas, and then I'll just go home and I'll structure it on my guitar. Voice memos are huge, man. My phone is crammed with voice memos. I also have a little recorder actually right over here. So this thing is, this thing I'll have on the road too. It has like a shitload more. Oh, there you go. Sorry about that. My thing fell. This thing has a bunch of information on it. It's got a larger memory. And I got it from a doctor's office, an orthopedic group where surgeons used to use it. So after they got done with, like Michael has a broken left clavicle and blah, 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 and put their details on it and save it. So I just got it for free from an old medical office. So got a bunch of stuff on there. Yeah, I have like voice, my voice classes from my old teachers on there. It's great. Record your voice. Yeah.
Do you find it hard to delete some of those? Some like old stuff, or do you just keep everything? Are you like a hoarder when it comes to voice memos?
Voice memos, like some of, I don't know. I must have lost at this point probably like 30 or 40 songs due to like some sort of memory crash on a phone or a computer. I actually, unfortunately, deleted I cleared out my computer the other day and I deleted, I think like 12 songs that were projects, like with multiple instrumentation on my recording program. But I was just like,
on accident?
Well, yeah, totally on accident. Like in the trash bin, cleared out the trash bin. But it's like, I just personally feel like whatever I'm going to accomplish in my life it's going to happen purposefully, So I like literally deleted it and I was like, oh, fuck. Well, okay. And then it makes me want to do something. Cause sometimes like I'm not emotionally attached to a song anymore. I'm very much like, it has to like fucking grab. Like it's really got to move me to a way that like I'll continuously have the energy to do it. Like I'll want it more and more and more and more as time goes on. And then you send it to, and it's got to work for the guys too, and the guy, you can tell when something's really digging in and really resonating. And that those are the songs I feel are meant to be. And if it's like, I'm never going to not be making music in my mind, mm-hmm. So like I'll be playing music till I'm dead. So it doesn't matter if something gets lost or anything, but making memos of it, at least. Like I remember I learned it from Bela Fleck when I was a kid. He used to call his home voice recorder and leave a message on his phone when he'd be on the road. So then he'd go through his messages and play them on the banjo afterwards. And so I did learn from that. That was a really good way to go about it. And I've been doing it ever since, it's like 15 years ago. So
since we've been on house arrest, have you guys been passing around ideas to each other?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Actually, we just had we were on the phone for a couple hours this afternoon coming up with plans for new songs that we're going to be doing. So everybody in the band has become extremely creative, which is great. Like it's a really wonderful thing. It's like a bummer that we can't play shows together and we miss everybody very much. But like Matt Richards, our keyboard player, he's working on actually a self-titled album, which are all these kind of really like beautiful piano compositions. They're like jazzy, but they're kind of like bluesy too, and synthy and electronic and beautiful. So he'll be releasing that hopefully coming up. And then Brad has just been playing a bunch of songs. Our bass player Chris Myers has just been coming up with the funkiest, grooviest stuff. So And then our drummer is just pretty much focusing on what he wants to approach with next, along with our percussion player, Brock. So we've got a lot of ideas. We keep in touch. We do about a meeting for a couple hours every 2 days or 3 days. So everything's constantly updated. We're still working together in conjunction very closely. So.
Right on, man. Let's talk about Matt Richards for a second. I feel like he's like super genius. Am I correct by saying that?
Yeah, you are. The thing is, I would actually like to just say, first of all, too, that like Rippy, our drummer, Rippy, Chris, Matt Richards, Brock, Brad, like every person in this band has such a unique genius to themselves that I can't be any more like grateful. Like I feel like I feel so grateful that I deserve, or that I'm in this band. Like I feel like I don't deserve to have such an awesome, humble group of people, but it's just with maturity, it's kind of happened, you know? Like every one of them is so genius in their own right, but we work together very, very well. Everybody connects very well. Matt Richards himself is, he's kind of like the definition of like one of those geniuses for like you don't know he's like this secret genius. He like wears a dad hat, you know, and he's like tall, lengthy, and like goofy. But when you sit down with him and talk with them and hang with them, you realize this kid is like, it just comes out of him in such like unique ways. Like he's absolutely hilarious too. And it's just, oh man, he really is a genius, dude. And every one of them are, you know, it's pretty nuts. Any one of them I could talk in length about how uniquely genius they are in the band. It's just, some are like more kind of grounded genius. Some are kind of like fiery genius, you know, some of them are just kind of humble. It's just, I don't know. I'm lucky, man. I could go on and on about that. I'm just really, really lucky, dude. I'm super lucky.
The one thing I've always respected about your band is the communication you guys have amongst each other, and the amount of love you guys share for each other. It's very apparent, and it's a good thing to see. And that's what brings out all that positivity in your music, is you can see the love for each other on that stage. It's a beautiful thing, and some bands should learn from you guys.
Yeah, I appreciate that very much, man. And I know that all of them would as well. The point, you starting it off with communication, is absolutely the most important thing. Communication is absolutely key to have a functional unit, you know. And, you know, where we've gotten to this point is not come with changes and, you know, people coming in and out of this band. And I think it's because you see that the communication is so huge, but it's like the communication always happens on stage and off stage, and like in all different ways. You know, it could be I could call one of my guys and we can talk about, like, you know, Matt and I might talk about like anime, you know, or like Brock and I will talk about cooking and like upstate country shit. I don't know. And then Chris Myers and I will talk about jazz or something like that. Each one of us, just like, we all keep in touch too, like just as friends, but then we also are very particular on how we communicate, how we want the music to move forward. Because when everyone's heard and everyone's listening to each other, our language our relationship develops more, you know. It's just like a marriage. Like, you keep things underneath, or a relationship, if you keep them underneath, you don't talk about them, like, it's only going to cause pressure. If you have communication constantly, it flows. And it's like an open network of communication. New ideas come through easier. You know, maybe, I don't want to say rejection because it's a hard word, but like, or not being agreed upon, or disagreements, like they don't hurt as much, or you don't take them as personally as much, because the communication is so like in such a group orientation, but also in such a compassionate and like authentic way, that it makes everything so like fluid. And that's what it should be. A show should be fluid. And because if the communication doesn't happen off the stage and it goes onto the stage, it comes out in subconscious ways. You know, maybe the show doesn't hit as well. Maybe somebody's angry on stage, or, you know, and sometimes fans can see that, and you want to be open, and, you know, that's still going to happen though. You know, like I'm not perfect when it comes to performing, but the way that I can communicate with my bandmates, the more that I'm able to help perform in a way that's not only expressive of myself, but also respectful of the message that everyone wanted wants to portray in unison. So it's interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting, man. And it's important that you do get along, and because you're in a relationship with like 5-6 other people, including, you know, your roadies and your sound guy, and Matt, of course, can't forget about, shout out Matt Stone, who tried calling us in the middle of this conversation.
Oh,
So,
really?
Yeah, you're not in communication with Matt today on what you're doing, are you today, Michael?
Yeah. I actually, so yeah, everyone's been working hard. Matt's been doing some stuff as well. And I think we're also going to see Matt developing a lot of his own production as well moving forward too. So cool. Matt's, you know, he's working on setting that up right now, which is really, really good. So the band's just been really trying to focus on our stuff. He's been able to focus on his stuff right now too. So it's been a beautiful thing. And he's been working hard to help get places built for people as well right now. You know, there's people going through some hard times, and he's busting ass trying to help people out and make things happen. So yeah. He's always doing that. Matt's a facilitator. He just wants to help people and get stuff done. So
yeah, for sure, man. For sure. So how many songs do you think you've written during this whole quarantine so far?
I have written out about like 6 different styles of songs. And then but I've written about a couple bluegrass songs. I wrote a bluegrass song, which I really love. But I've been really kind of going back to digging out the closet, you know, like really doing a lot of archive work. Like not only with myself, but Annie in the Water's material as well. But I've written front to back about 6 songs during this. Like, it's funny because sometimes I'll get to a song and it's just like so ADD and all over the place. But I've been really focusing actually like in this phase of my career, trying to be more tactile and actually like have a set design. So I've actually been working on building like a day function actually in a schedule for myself, like as a creative, because I've always been kind of so spontaneous on the road. You don't have much of a schedule. So I'll actually schedule out every day time where I'm doing business stuff, but then also doing the structure of my music. So it's going to be more, I think, in the future, but you're going to be seeing more Annie in the Water stuff coming out too. So
excellent. Mm-hmm. And then I can assume that Bradley's writing a bunch of stuff right now too, right? His mind is always moving.
It is. He's been, it's been good. We've been actually doing a lot of business work too. So, Brad's been doing a lot of business end work as well, but he's written this one song that we're going to be releasing as Annie in the Water. I don't want to put out too much information on it yet, just because it's going to be formulating in different ways. I wouldn't want to say something right now when it might take a different direction, but it's a beautiful song that we're going to work with as the band. And that's going to be a pretty cool song. So that's kind of been his baby, his pet project. But then besides that, he's on the phone with our accountant, and then, you know, we're working on launching a merch store. And so Brad gets down to the nitty gritty a lot, and he's a workhorse, dude. You got to give, you know, 2 high fives to that kid. He's a beast.
He really is, man. All you guys are beasts, man. And I love watching you guys grow. The growth has been really cool to watch, you know, and that's the one thing I love about the jam scene. I say this a lot too, is the organic growth of all these grassroots styles of bands. It gets out there, and the word of mouth, we should say. And you guys are right there too. And it's so much fun to watch all these bands grow, and now watching everybody adapt to all these changes too. It's been really cool to see as well.
Yeah. A lot of the guys, you know, we all keep in touch, you know, and we're kind of rooting for each other, you know, and at the same time, you're right. It is grassroots, and it's like, it's the building a career in jam band scene is just as much as like improv as the, you know, second set, mid set, like just getting weird with it. 'Cause, you know, right now it's like that meme that has been putting out. It's like, you know, like this whole social distancing is the same thing as, you know, second set drums space part at a Dead show. It's so true. You know, you have no idea where it's going to go, but you got to kind of sit through it. Like, because if you do sit through this, like, it's going to pay off so big at the end. And all the jam band, like, it's funny. I've been working a lot on like focusing on branding and how bands have done certain things, and whether it's mainstream, whether it's country, whether it's EDM, whether it's jam band. And, you know, some of the information that I just keep coming back to is like, there's no perfect career. Like even somebody that is like the quintessential, like we've got the diamond in the rough, the like you look at like Whitney Houston, you know, like God bless her, like so amazing, you know, and like you think that you just make the most perfect career out of that woman, and like how, how much difficult things she went through, you know, and that's one example, like, you know, or like Avicii, like Avicii's incredible EDM artist, you know, and it's like only sky's the limit. He was on top of the world, you know, and it makes you realize that like no matter how like perfect you are as a marketing piece, like it really comes down to like the emotion and the story that you're telling, the life that you're living, and you can only be as good as, you know, what the story is you're telling. And it comes down to the music, the creativity, and everything, you know, the numbers games and the money and the production and all that stuff is important, but it really comes down to, you know, the juice, the emotion, and the experience that the people are really trying to give to you. So it's been interesting, man. It's been interesting to watch all the jam bands go, because jam bands are just like, yeah, whatever, dude. Like we're figuring it out, you know. Like it's just it's a cool approach, man. Yeah, I love the jam band circuit. I feel like people are going to jump on it too with time. I think I feel like the jam band scene is going to have a pretty good resurgence when we can finally hit it. You know,
it's going to be around forever. It never really went anywhere. I mean, it's had its ups and downs, of course, but it's not going anywhere.
Oh, for sure. It's just because it's constantly evolving. Yeah, you can't. It just evolves, you know, and people are sticking with the evolution, you know.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, Mike, have you been doing anything out of the ordinary during this whole lockdown? Have you did something that's not in your normal wheelhouse? Taking on any new hobbies or anything?
You know, that's an interesting question. Yeah, I read this book. I've been reading this book. It's called Transurfing Reality, and we're gonna get real heady real quick, bro. But
yeah, man,
it's kind of like looking at reality through a different lens. Whereas, like, you know, the energetics of it and everything, I guess you could say. I don't even want to go deep down that wormhole because, like, we're just it's so like kind of my own philosophy, but I've been really kind of changing up my own way I've been looking at reality and how I am kind of reacting in reality. So I've been taking on every day I do like this new meditation. It's like 50-minute meditation. It's an active meditation that I do every day, and I stick with it. It's a discipline. So the biggest out of the ordinary thing for me has been discipline. I've been building structure in my life and building discipline in my life because I've always kind of like given myself this back end bullshit excuse of like, oh, I'm a musician and like I got to go with the flow and I got to like, you know, be like, you know, you get caught up in the bullshit that way. You get run down that way. You get taken advantage that way. You don't protect your energy, I don't think. And you also don't use your energy the best way that way. So I've just realized in my life, like I'm actually better off when I'm more structured and more focused. So I've been building a very different protocol for myself and work ethic, actually. So in a way, like I've really kind of rehashed how I'm actually, you know, like reacting within, you know, this experience, you know, if you will. But as for like, you know, fun stuff, like I still skateboard and I still go out with my dog and I still do that, but like I think I've just changed my career like completely. Like it's really made me change my career. I've been working out every day, whereas I never had a solid workout schedule every day. I've always been like, you know, I'd get on this awesome workout regime for like a week and a half, and then I'd go on the road and like that shit would just go right out the window, you know? So yeah, just mostly just focus, you know, focus is kind of the big key as of right now that I've never been really too good at since I was a kid. So focusing on focus, I guess, as weird as that sounds.
There you go. Focus on focusing. I like it.
Yeah.
It's good to have discipline in your life too, and get yourself on a nice little regimen. And like you said, you haven't been in a consistent house in 13 years. So, man,
Yep.
To put everything on pause must have been really hard for you to adjust. But it's good to see that you're acclimated to it now. Yeah,
I'm doing great with it. I'm going up to my camp, like I said. I'm moving up there in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and that's like this really like peaceful, sacred place to me. So once I get up there, I think we're going to start seeing a lot more creativity happening. I think it's going to be really a good phase. So I'm excited, dude. I'm fucking stoked.
Yeah, buddy. Clear that mind and recharge those batteries, brother.
You got it, dude.
You got it. Mike, thanks for hanging out with me today, man. This has been helping my mental health, and I'm able to catch up with a lot of my old friends and have these conversations on a day-to-day basis. So thanks for taking time and hanging with me. And, you know, I look forward to 3 o'clock every day now, just so
Dude,
I can hang out in my bedroom, and I'm talking to my buddies about music, and this has just been great. So thanks for hanging out with me, man.
Absolutely, dude. I love it, dude. Keep putting the content out, dude. It's really like, you know, you could have shuttered and not done shit, dude, but you're a badass, and we all fucking love you for it, Steve.
Thanks, brother. Thank you. It's because of the love of music and all my friends is the reason why I keep doing this, and to help my mental health, of course, because it definitely helps.
Dude, we love it, dude. Everybody loves it. Keep serving it, bro. We're eating it up.
Thanks, man. Everybody out there on Facebook land, if there was comments, I was able to shut down. I was having some Wi-Fi issues, so I'm not able to comment back to them, but I will go through, and if there was any comments out there. If you are watching on Facebook, please click the share button and help spread the word of EC Radio, Disruption Network, Annie in the Water, and my host, the handsome, or my guest, I should say. My guest, Mr. Michael Lashomb from Annie in the Water. You guys, man, keep doing what you're doing. Keep writing great music. Stay creative. Stay healthy. Stay positive. And there is a silver lining to all this. And when we're rocking some festival down the road together, having a couple beers or doing whatever we do, it's going to be a great feeling, and we're going to appreciate it that much more because we are together and we had to go through all this bullshit. So stay creative, brother. Stay creative.
For sure, dude. And I look forward to the day where you, Stacy, and the crew and all of us get together for a big old banger show.
Yeah.
And it's going to be in Utica, and it'll be Annie in the Water. And hopefully Mo invites us on the stage too. You never know, bro. You never know.
We'll figure it all out, man. But it'll definitely happen down the road. I think what's going to happen is you're going to see a lot more backwoods parties. And we should talk about that off camera. Because
definitely.
We should go back to the old school way of doing things. You know, the old school keggers.
I've gotten a lot of phone calls about that. Yeah, definitely an off-camera disclosure thing for sure.
Right on, brother. Shout out to Todd back in the studio for keeping the D alive and going up. Also, shout out to everybody that's been tipping into my virtual tip jar on Venmo and our PayPal. If you'd like to contribute to the D on Venmo, it's at XYTODA, or at PayPal, sales@disruptionnetwork.net. Thank you to everybody that's been contributing. I appreciate all the generosity out there and helping us get through these horrible times. But we will survive and get through all this stuff and keep creating content and keep entertaining the masses like we do here at Disruption Network and Annie in the Water and all the upstate New York jam scene and music community. So, yeah, keep rocking, people. Stay safe out there. I'm probably going to go live on my Facebook tonight, have a couple drinks. So join me if you would. And thanks again. And you can watch this at disruptionnetwork.net. And I will see you tomorrow. Later.